Hey everyone, welcome back to Campfire Cooking. We're here at level 2, so we're gonna do a bit more than last week. Last week we were doing grilled cheese. This week we're gonna be making pizza rolls. You'll notice, very similar process. There's a bit more prep involved with this one, and the dynamics, the ingredients are a bit more dynamic, a bit more going on. But remember all those skills we learned last week and developed last week, assessing our fire, keeping the heat, cooking with all of our senses, hearing, smelling, and seeing, then we should be well on our way to have some great pizza rolls. So I have 2 done up here already. Actually, before I get into that, we'll reassess all of our safety stuff. So to make sure I've got all my things, I've got my fire gloves, my bucket of water in case of emergency, and I have my dish set up just off screen. So I'm pretty sure I'm safe. I can safely make a fire now, or use a fire. So we'll kind of assess all of our ingredients. To make the pizza rolls, kind of like most pizzas, you'll need some tomato sauce. Always be sure, if you're going on a camping trip, double check if you can bring cans or what kind of jars you can bring into the park you're going to, just so you don't get into a bad situation when you get out there. I have some margarine to use on the pan. I have a wrap, some spice, some seasonings. I have basil and oregano, classic pizza toppings. And then our toppings. We have some pepperoni, green peppers, and cheese. Before we get too into it, I remembered I have a pretty good riddle that kind of has to do with the mushroom topping. Here it goes. What room has no windows or doors? I'll give you a second. You're probably getting close. Think pizza toppings. So I'll let you in on a secret. The only room with no windows or doors is a mushroom. Sorry for that one. So we'll get into making our pizza rolls now. I have 2 assembled already, but I'll take you through the process to put them together. It's fairly straightforward, but that being said, even some things that seem straightforward to some folks are a bit more complex to other folks. So we'll start from the top. I have a plate underneath my wrap here to catch anything that falls out. I'm going to start with some pizza sauce. With the sauce, a little bit goes a long way. So we don't want to put too much sauce on because it will get quite messy. And if it falls out, it may burn. And you can always just heat some up and use it to dip if you don't have enough. But if you put too much on now, it'll get too moist and it won't really crisp up. You'll get kind of a soggy pizza wrap, which probably tastes good, but there's no saying that you eat with your eyes first. So if it looks like it's not so great, then you might already think it might not be so great. And that's why we want our food to look good and taste good, because you eat with your eyes first. And I referenced before cooking with all of your senses. So I've put down my cheese here on top of the sauce. Now I'm gonna put my pepperoni on top of that. The order doesn't matter too much. We want to keep it into a nice organized line so that when we roll it, it becomes a tight little wrap. If we cover our whole wrap, it gets hard to roll it. So we want to have just our toppings on one side of the wrap. I'll tilt it up so you can see it in just a moment. As you can see here, I have all my ingredients on one side of the wrap and the rest of the wrap is bare. I'm going to organize all my ingredients. You might get your hands a little messy, that's okay, into a nice tight roll. The more tight the roll is, the better that our finished product is going to turn out. We want the cheese to melt and act sort of like glue, so it keeps it together, and we finish with this shape, nice and solid. Instead of the flipper I used last week for the grilled cheese, I'm going to be using tongs this week. The nature of these ingredients, they're so big that if you put the flipper under one side of it, you might have a hard time adjusting it. So I have 2 tongs to act as extensions of my hand so I can move everything in the pan as we're going. I forgot to add the basil and oregano, but that's okay. We'll sprinkle some on after. We're just moving around to our fire here. It looks like it's pretty hot. I'm gonna use my hand to assess that. Kind of coming in from far away, I can feel some heat now, so I know it's quite hot. And again, when you're cooking on a campfire, it's really important to engage all of your senses. Your sense of feel, if you can feel how hot it is, you can hear something burning, you can see or smell something burning. You really want to take advantage of all of your senses that you have available to you. So as our pan is getting hot right now, I'm going to use my tongs as a bit of a spoon. Something I've learned over many years, going on canoe trips with Pinecrest and myself, that it's inevitable you're going to forget one or two things. So it's important to look at all of your tools that you bring with you and see what other uses. Really, a tong is just two spoons put together. If you forget your spoon, you have some tongs. So just like our first time, we're going to move the margarine. We're going to move the margarine around in the pan so that it coats the whole bottom. And we want to get it so that it's hot. And the reason we want to start the pan hot before we put our ingredients in is that when the pizza wrap comes in contact with the hot pan, it will immediately start cooking it. If we start with a cold pan and we put the ingredient on, as it heats up, you may get the wrap sticking to the pan, or it might not get a nice crisp golden brown outside that we want. It'll still cook it eventually, but we want our pan to be fairly hot. Not smoking. I don't want to burn the margarine. That will happen if I leave it on for too much, and that flavor could really affect our finished ingredient. So we want to get it so that it's melted, and if you could see what I'm seeing, I'll describe it to you. It's starting to bubble slightly, just slightly. So here we go. We're going to put our 3 pizza wraps onto the pan. Now I can hear a subtle sizzle. That's what I want. Not too strong, but not silent either. I want it to sizzle a little bit. Also, what you'll notice is I'm placing them with the folded side down so that I can kind of seal it in. If I were to put it side up, it could open up as I'm cooking, and then we have a messy pizza wrap. And like I said before, we want nice, clean, tight pizza wraps. So as those are cooking, like I said before, you kind of clean as you go. That way, when our pizza wraps are done, you kind of do your dishes quickly, wait for them to cool down, or it's just organized. From working in restaurant kitchens, in the kitchens here at Pinecrest, and in my backcountry kitchen, you could say, nothing drives me more crazy than clutter. Clutter makes spills, makes mess, and especially around a fire, if I left my sauce out and I tripped, and I put my hand down to catch myself anywhere around here, that would be a very painful accident. So by keeping our kitchen area clean of clutter, we're keeping it safe as well. Great, and I can tell by the sound I'm hearing now that it's quite hot. So I might actually move my pan away from the fire. Now, just like we had talked about in level 1, is that the fire, the dynamic nature of the fire is it's not a consistent, even heat. I've moved it away, so now only 1/2 of my pan is getting a lot of heat. So what I can do is assess my pizza wraps, carefully look at them. Yep, they're getting a nice color on the bottom. Be very careful with this step, and only go as far as you're comfortable. They're starting to get a nice crisp, but I think it looks like I can leave it on for a bit longer. What I'm seeing is it's slightly brown, it's glistening. The butter is melted, and it's starting to get a nice golden brown color. That's what we want before I flip it. So I'll give that a little bit longer. A part that you didn't see about our cooking, it was starting the fire. The fire I'm using today, I started well before starting to cook on. I got it to a point where I could use large logs that get very hot and burn for a long time and don't put out a whole lot of smoke. I want my cooking fire to be a consistent hot temperature. If I was using only little twigs, like things about this big, they burn so quickly and they burn very hot. But I'd be always feeding the fire, not being able to attend to my delicious pizza wraps or anything else that might be going on. So I've got my fire to a point where I'm using my large fuel source, my large logs, that burn down into coals to give me a nice consistent heat source. So that's the part you didn't see. But if you're cooking around a fire, it's always important to remember what kind of fire are you using. We're going for another look at the pizza wraps now. Looks great. It's a nice golden brown color on our first one. Oh, second one unraveled a bit. I have to do a little bit of a maneuver, but that's okay. Great, nice golden brown color on that one as well. And to not repeat my same mistake, I'm going to use 2 tongs, so I have a bit more control over my wrap. Great. On all 3 right now, we have a nice golden brown color. But on the left side of the pan, which I believe would be your right side, it's darker. So what I can do about that is adjust the orientation of the wraps in the pan so they're all getting equal access to the heat. Now that I've moved that handle of the pan closer to the fire, I can assume it's going to be hot. So I'm going to get my fire glove ready, because the worst thing is, the worst thing that could happen if I have my fire glove on is I don't know if it's hot or not. If I were to check with a bare hand, if it is hot, I'd hurt myself. If it's not, then I get lucky. With the fire glove on, I take the luck out of the equation. I'm gonna sprinkle a little oregano on right now, so I can get hot. Sometimes when you're using dry herbs, they can be a bit more potent, but they do need to rehydrate a little bit. So they're gonna mix in with some of the oil of the margarine and oils that are coming out of the wraps. And it's gonna create a really nice flavor. And like I said, I had forgotten to do that earlier, but that's not a problem. Since I'm the one that's eating them, if it's okay with me, then that's great. So it looks like our other side is a nice dark color now. So what I'm gonna try to do, take my advice and use 2 tongs, is I'm gonna maneuver them, because they've kind of formed into squares. So I can get the side that hasn't been grilled yet to grilled. This way we make sure everything inside is nice and cooked and hot. Great, kind of balancing there. We're gonna melt the cheese. Make sure I used cured salami, so it's already cooked. But I wanna make sure the cheese is melted. There's nothing raw other than the peppers, so everything here is safe to eat. But I think by putting this much time into doing something, I'd like it to taste good. So I think we'll give those, like I said last time, a minute, but how long is that minute? It really depends. It depends what the fire is telling me, what the pizza roll is telling me. Maybe they're ready, maybe they're not. I'm gonna use the plate that I rolled my pizza wrap on to put my pizza rolls back onto. It's always important to have something somewhere for your ingredients to go. Like I said last time, taking the pan off the fire only goes so far. They're still cooking in the hot pan. So as you can see now, it's holding its shape quite well. It's got a nice crust on it. So I'll take out all 3. That's great. I'm gonna let those cool down because they're quite hot inside. Well, hopefully they're quite hot inside. Move that just here. And I'm leaving it on the fire because it's still hot, and I'm assuming everything on that fire is hot. If I were to put it with my dishes and someone else in my group came and wanted to do the dishes, they wouldn't know it's hot. They should ask or check, but they may not. So this way, they know it's probably hot. Even if it's not, like I said before, worst that happens is you find out it's cool. I would hate to find out it's hot by burning my hand. So I'll see if I can get these to, if you can see, there's 3 little wraps here. Nice golden brown edges, golden brown on all the sides. And there as well. Smells like a pizza shop, really good. So that was it for our round 2, or level 2. We're making pizza rolls. I look forward, if you're enjoying the Y camps, then please subscribe. And if you're able to, consider making a donation to your local Y to help with any local initiatives. But before we sign off, we'll get you excited for next week. We're doing fish tacos. The big thing about camping sometimes is catching fish. The fish I'll be using, I caught from my local supermarket. But if you are camping, we'll be using a recipe with some fish. So we'll add some raw meat, which is kind of another dimension. But once again, if you're enjoying Y camps, don't forget to subscribe. And if you have the ability to, please consider making a donation to your local Y. Thanks.
Killed it, Pete. So good. Yeah.